time for Wolo and Friends on Sports 56. Here is your host, the voice of the Tigers, Dave Wolo. Look up on the wall.
Departure day for the Tigers. They will head to Orlando. It is not going to be Tampa. We bantied this thing around yesterday. I'm not sure this is the total right decision. I think the right decision, honestly, would have been keep the Friday night prime date, play it in Memphis, swap with that next year. Tim Pernetti gave into USF, a team that was like Memphis, getting ready to leave the pack. I don't know if that had any part of the thought process of the commissioner, but it's Orlando. It's the Camping World Stadium, which I believe is the old Citrus Bowl.
That's correct.
I think that's actually where UCF used to play before they built Bright House Stadium. So Memphis has played in there before, and so we'll get a look at that. Speaking of Tim Pernetti and the decision and everything else that goes in with it, it was interesting. I listened to Brandon Lang. I love that segment that Greg and Eli do every Friday. And 4 schools, only 4, have covered every single game this year. Army and Navy are 2 of the 4. Wow. The rise of Army and Navy will also be discussed with this new thing we're going to do on Fridays. I'm calling it the AAC Roundtable. Corey Glore, the voice of the Tulane Green Wave. Bruce Howard, the voice of Tulsa for a long, long time. They will join me. That will be at 10:45. So we'll begin this thing through basketball season. That should be fun. Will there be a New York City Subway Series? Really? Could there be? Yes, there could be. Because both the Mets and the Yanks are in the League Championship Series, respectively National League and American League. You're the baseball guy. Brian Takis, there's not going to be a Subway Series. Somebody, the Dodgers, if they beat San Diego, I can't believe the Mets, although hot at the right time.
That's right.
You think there's going to be a Subway Series?
We could certainly get one. I mean, you made the good point. The Mets certainly have momentum. A team that I am not a huge fan of, the Mets, but and I've been rooting against them this entire playoffs. But if they meet up with the Yankees, that will turn me. I will be rooting for the Mets to defeat the Yankees, because no way would I be rooting for the Yankees.
I'm with you.
Yeah,
I really am. We should have fun. It's Detroit and Cleveland. That game's today. It's San Diego, LA today. Then
That's
Detroit
right.
and Cleveland.
Correct.
So we got good baseball games the next 2 days for sure. So and those are both game 5s. So the winners, that's an elimination thing. The winners will move on. And then the Grizz last night, first exhibition game at FedEx Forum. They were losers to Charlotte. You didn't go to that game, did you?
I did not. No.
I did not either. I don't know how many attended it, but they're supposed to. I'm curious. We'll find out on Tuesday. But I'm curious, like the new rigging for sound. I don't know if new lighting was in there too. I know they got a new menu. I'm curious about how different it was, but we'll find out on Tuesday for certain. God, they got killed points in the paint. It was like 50-30, but here's the craziest thing. They had 16 points in the paint in the first quarter, 14 the rest of the game.
Wow, holy cow.
So they couldn't even get the ball inside. I'm not sure. Well, maybe it's because John Morant wasn't around. Maybe it's because Marcus Smart got hurt again, a knee injury. We'll talk about this with Andy Schiffman as we get set for the NBA season, which starts for real in less than 2 weeks. And then Gled Rogers, whose father's got a street, I will be traveling on that street because it is right behind, it's a portion of Hollywood, right behind the Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium. So we'll be traveling on that to go to Park when Memphis plays North Texas in a week and a couple of days. And so that will be something that we'll get into because I know Glenn is really, really proud, and rightfully so, of his dad. And we'll get into that in the high school because it's fall break. A lot of high school buys this week. So we'll sort of do a recap of the little bit more than halfway through the regular season. But we on Fridays do a thing called Pick 5. I am 14-6 in the Pick 5s. We do 4 college games and we do 1 NFL game. I'm 14-6. I hate to say this, but if I combine the Zach with the Bryant picks, you're in a hole. You're 7-13. Knowing my prowess, I don't think you could ever recover from that.
Well, Dave, I don't.
That's 7 games.
Dave, I don't like the way you stated that because you said me and Zach. There's no me in there. That was all Zach. I haven't made a single pick on Friday, so I don't know if my picks going forward should necessarily love Zach. Nothing against Zach.
I don't know if this pick'em contest is the reason he decided to go become an algebra teacher.
It might be. I mean, that much in the hole.
I mean, it could have been.
I'd probably quit as well.
Yeah, it could have been.
I just don't know if I should be this far behind. It feels unfair to me.
It does seem that way.
And the beautiful start to the new edition of the show that I'm that far in the hole.
What are you in your competition with Brett Norsworthy?
Dave, I don't know the exact record, but I'm doing pretty good.
What do you mean
you
don't know the exact record?
I don't know the exact record.
I guarantee you know the exact record.
I don't have it all on the top of my head. I know that I'm doing pretty well.
My gosh, you sound like a politician right now. All right, I'm going to relent. I just want to get this thing off on a fair footing.
All right.
I don't want to be considered a bad guy
all right.
with a new guy, although you're not so new, and I got a feeling you sucked with Brett.
I'll count that as a win for me. So 1-0 start for me, Dave.
You're 0-0. So am I. Let's get to this because we have got a busy show. We've got Rogers coming your way, Schiffman coming your way, and then Corey Glore and Bruce Howard with our very first ever American Athletic Conference Roundtable. We'll begin college football, 4 games, Florida at Tennessee. The Volunteers giving away a lot, 14.5. Florida seems to be getting better. They did a good job last week against UCF. But Tennessee, I think they got something to prove. They're at home. They want to just get the margin up to make it look better for them as a playoff contender. I think they're going to cover the 14.5. I know that's a big number, but I believe the Vols are that good. So we'll see, but I'll take Tennessee.
I'm going to go with Florida in this one. It's a big number. I mean, we're talking, 3 scores, 2 touchdowns, a field goal, 3 touchdowns. That's a lot of points. And Florida, like you said, has been playing better. This has been a good series in the past, Florida and Tennessee. And I think right now everybody in that Florida locker room knows what's on the line if they keep losing, and that is their head coach's job. And so I think they'll rally for him. Probably not get the win, but I do think they can keep it kind of close.
This is a tough one. Ole Miss giving away 3.5 on the road, Death Valley, LSU. I have a thing about home dogs, especially when a game is this close. Ole Miss against Kentucky showed they can be slowed down. Although this LSU defense is not quite as good as Kentucky's, but their offense is better. I think they stay with them. I think they actually win the game. It's only 3.5. I'm taking the LSU Tigers.
I'm also taking LSU. I mean, you talk about that stadium, that environment, a night game at Death Valley. Everyone always talks about how thrilling that is to go in there. So, maybe Ole Miss keeps it close, but I'm going to take LSU plus the 3.5 at home.
I just got a text, and it came from John Harden, who said,
I also got
you guys
that
better
text.
take Ole Miss. If Harden is saying that, even more reason to go with LSU. Texas, road favorite by 14.5. That 14.5 is a very popular number.
Yeah.
That hook is right there. I'm not convinced about Oklahoma. I know they played really good against Tennessee. And 14.5 is a big number. I'm a believer, whether it's Ewers or whether it's Manning. I'm a believer in Texas. I think they want to stay number 1. And I think to stay number one, they got to win by more than 14 and a half. For that reason, that motivation, I'm going with the Longhorns.
Yeah, I'm also going to go with Texas here, which kind of puts in question my reasoning for taking Florida instead of Tennessee. But I think Texas is just going to overpower Oklahoma. This is a rivalry game. I think this is an opportunity that Texas has to really dominate Oklahoma, and in a rivalry game, I think they're going to keep that foot on the gas. So I'll take Texas minus 14.5.
Ohio State is at Oregon, and the Buckeyes are the road favorite by a field goal. No hook in this one. I heard Brandon Lang rip Dan Lanning. I think he's learned his lessons. Sure. I think he's a good coach. I liked him when he was here.
Yeah.
With Mike Norvell.
Absolutely.
No, I think this guy is good. I think the better quarterback. I know he makes some mistakes, but he is a deliverer. I think Oregon is going to win this game. I think it'll be close, but it'll be more than the 3. And I think that's the more unpopular choice.
Yeah.
You going with Ohio State?
I am going with Ohio State. I think this team is really, really solid. I watched them last week against Iowa. I've seen them a couple other games. I don't think enough people are talking about how good this team is, and I think they're going to put the world on notice with a big win against Oregon.
And then finally, last pick of this game, it's an of this week. It's an NFL game, and I set this up deliberately because I picked on poor Zach because he had a weakness. He had a weakness that he loved the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
I see in you, young Brian Takis, that exact same weakness. There is no doubt in my mind that Detroit will win this game. There is no doubt in my mind that Dallas, like every year, is completely overrated. In fact, the NFC East is completely overrated. I think Detroit in the NFC North, which, by the way, is the best division in all of the NFL. Detroit, the best team probably in that division, is going to win this game by at least a touchdown, maybe more. Heart or logic, young man?
Well, Dave, call me a ghost because you see right through me. I cannot pick against my Dallas Cowboys. I love them more than I love life at sometimes, and sometimes they crush me. A lot of times they crush me. I got to go with the Dallas Cowboys plus 3
I
here.
knew it's your kryptonite. I knew I would take advantage of that like I did with Zach Boyd. So the picks are in, the ones that we differ on. I'm taking Tennessee. You're taking Florida. I'm taking Oregon. You're taking Ohio State. I'm taking Detroit. You're taking Dallas. Very good. We are off to a flying start on this Friday in the Family Leisure Studios. I'll let you know the biggest spa sale going on is still going on at Family Leisure, where you can get in-stock hot tubs under $2,900. These are the best. These are state-of-the-art. Go in the store and look. How about the cold plunges, the newest craze? Get the heart going. You go into this icy water. They got those for under $4,000. They got the Cadillac, the swim spas, the huge ones. They're on sale, and this is a good price, $17,499. What makes it most enticing is special financing is available. All you got to do is go see our friends, Billy or Lindsay, who owns it. Go see them at I-40 and Whidden Road, where Family Leisure means family and fun and a big spa sale all coming together. I was in, for my coaches' meetings, I was at the indoor practice facility just yesterday. And as I'm walking out, there's the picture of Glenn Rogers Jr. and Sr. right by the door. You couldn't ask for a better place. And now I'm going to be driving next week on Glenn Rogers Sr. Drive, Street, Parkway. I don't know what they're calling it. It's part of Hollywood, right behind the stadium. Congratulations, Glenn Rogers Jr., to your dad. The street now being named after him. That is so cool. Good morning.
Good morning, Dave, and you and Brian and all our listeners. It's been easy be Friday, but yeah, Dave, they're going to put they're going to do the street right behind the Liberty Bowl that stretches Highland from Southern to up to Central, and so that's going to be a part they're going to do. And just my hats off to Councilman Carlisle. Really, Clay Smythe, one of my colleagues at work, mentioned this a couple of years ago that city and the university needs to do something for your father before he leaves this earth. And so Councilman Carlisle and the city council, Councilman Carlisle played for me at MUS, and they really got the ball rolling on this thing, and I applaud the university for honoring him back in 2002, the Tulsa game, Coach Silverfield and his staff. And Mike Norvell, Dave, was one of the first coaches to allow my dad to speak to the team back in 2018. And I just applaud everybody for that. And it's going to be a great day on October the 25th at 11 a.m. When they're going to unveil the street sign, Glenn Rogers Senior Street. And it's going to be a great day for the city of Memphis, my dad and our family, and just a great day for everybody involved in this thing. 'Cause it's been a long time coming. I'm just glad he's still here with us to see this happen.
Well, the cool thing is anybody that is in those suites in the press box now, from here on into eternity, will be on your dad's street. If you go to a game, you're going to be on that section of the street. That will be, because there's a lot of streets named after people where they do sections like that, but, you know, not many people travel them. This one is going to be well traveled. Speaking of traveling, we talked a lot about Jaron Johnson when Bartlett played a whale of a game, first game of the year against MUS, and this kid ripped them apart. Well, he ripped apart Germantown last night, upset Bartlett, which we thought was going to be good and really had struggled. They knock off a Germantown team that's really pretty good, and Jaron Johnson had 295 yards in that game. I don't know that he's been really consistent this year, but the performances against MUS and Germantown, two pretty solid programs, wow, that's special.
Yeah, and Dave, Gene Robinson, the coach at Germantown, he's a defensive guy. Just same as it could be said about Mark Chubb and at MUS, and for him to rip off that many yards on both of those programs, and it just goes to show you that this young man has a special talent. It was a big upset last night. 19-0 beating Germantown, and like you said, Ballers had their struggles. Tough loss against Collierville, and tough loss at Houston, and then to come back to beat a Germantown team that we know is a pretty good ball club, and for him to rip off almost 300 yards rushing, kudos to him and his coach and the program and that offensive line for opening those holes up for him to run through them.
Yesterday, they announced the AutoZone Liberty Bowl High School All-Star Classic coaches. The head coaches are going to be Bolton's C.J. Marshall and Sheffield's Ed Kuykendall. Those are pretty young, big names or up-and-coming names in the area. Congratulations to the AutoZone Liberty Bowl.
Absolutely. Two good up-and-coming young coaches who's worked their way up through the chain. Ed Kuykendall is a Ramon Slocum disciple. He gave Coach Slocum a lot of praises. In his announcement yesterday, it was just so good to see Coach Slocum there to receive that. And, and C.J. Marshall, the head coach at Bolton, young coach, been around. Like I said, both of these guys have worked their way up through the ranks. Both of them have coached in the All-Star game before. And so congratulations to both these young coaches at Bolton High School and at Sheffield High School to be a part of this thing and a legacy that they can have for the rest of their lives, head coaching this thing. It's because they come behind a lot of great head coaches. And
I want to applaud all the folks at the AutoZone Liberty Bowl who've been doing this. I was fortunate enough to be on the original committee. Steve Earhart was there. Bobby Alston, your former boss, was on that committee. Wayne Whedon was then the athletic director for city schools. Stan Collins was on that original committee. There were a lot of people, and this was a big step. And, of course, Steve Earhart was the kingpin of the whole thing. And in all that time, we have never seen repeat head coaches. Some have passed away. Alcade, I know, has passed away. There was somebody else that was mentioned that had passed away. Many have retired. Never a repeat, which just goes to show you how many great young coaches keep coming up and become a part of the fabric of this game. I think it's a great tradition.
It is, Dave. And, hats off to Steve Earhart and Dominic Middleton. It's just, a wonderful game. Just excited for the city and these young men. Harold Grader is a big part of it as well. And, Steve mentioned your name, Dave, as being one of the original founders on the committee. Coach Austin was there to hear his name called. And I've been a part of the game since its inception. And so my dad was there. He was a former head coach. Ramon Slocum, Cedric Miller, a lot of former head coaches there. Just a good thing for the city and for these young men to another opportunity for them to perform in front of their family members and friends. And a lot of these guys, like a Tony Pollard and Don Terry Pope, Anthony Miller, have turned this game into scholarship opportunities at the university. And so this has really helped a lot of young men. And just kudos to Steve and the Liberty Bowl and everything that they do for the city and AutoZone for sponsoring.
A little more than halfway through the regular season here before playoffs and everything else. Give me your favorite 2 storylines so far of the 24 high school football season.
Well, I tell you, to me, Dave, one of the biggest, my favorite storylines has been Whitehaven. To see the resurgence of that program, it's a storied, traditional program, and the way Rodney has battled back to see them back on top. Coach Salisbury and his staff getting that team back going in the right direction. It's probably one of my favorite storylines because we know that's a proud program, a proud neighborhood, and to see them fight back 2 years out of the playoffs, a lot of questions, a lot of doubts coming into this year, but they fought back. He's got a great team. You got good young star tailback that's a sophomore, and so that's probably been my favorite storyline, to see that program resurgence and back at the top of the board where they belong. And then probably another favorite story of mine, Dave, is probably the Collierville story. I mean, you got 2 teams in the same conference, and Joe Riccone's the coach there, and I mean, just to see those 2 schools they're gonna battle it out here in the upcoming weeks. But to me, those are probably Collierville's a surprise because they beat Houston. But that, to me, that tells you it's a lot of parity in the league and in that league especially. But it's a lot of parity in the city. But those are probably my 2 favorite storylines, to see those 2 programs just really stepping to the forefront. It's a shock because we know Houston won the state last year, but to see them stepping back up in the forefront, that's a real to me, a big storyline.
And let's face it, anything else can still happen in the playoffs. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Absolutely.
We'll have a full slate of games for you to pick next Friday. Thank you, my friend, and enjoy the slower times this week.
Yeah, I'm up in Knoxville for the Florida-Tennessee game, visiting my in-laws, and I tell you, I'm excited, Dave, to go to that game tomorrow. Big crowd up here, a lot of Tennessee fans on the way, and just exciting times. And coaches, enjoy the week off because we know down the stretch there's going to be some wars going on with these schools fighting for playoff position.
Absolutely. That is Glenn Rogers Jr. on high school football. Whether you're a business owner, a single mom, maybe you're buying your very first home, you know who should be your trusted financial partner. I love them, Southern Security. For over 75 years now, Southern Security has been serving the Mid-South community with unbeatable rates, the best of service, and always the newest technology. Wait till you see that new building in Collierville. It's been voted the best credit union in the Mid-South for 6 consecutive years. And to find out how you can join that Southern Security family, it's easy 2 ways. You can go to southernsecurity.org. Everybody does that. My favorite part about this is you can actually talk to a human being. You can call a team member at 901-452-7900. Southern Security is a proud supporter of the University of Memphis Athletics. Also, 901 Women, Dawn Grader, the head of Southern Security. She's a big part of the 901 Women. Southern Security, that's your home team credit union, federally insured by NCUA. And this portion of the show also brought to you by the good folks, Grind City. Grind City, I was at a concert last night, and Grind City was one of the sponsors. My son and his band Sunweight actually played at the Overton Shell. It was a lot of fun. Grind City was a part of that. Grind City is a part of everything Memphis. It's in the DNA, and they got a new product. It's called Gator Patrol. I don't think that has anything to do with the Florida Gators. It does have everything to do with something unique and really good tasting. It's called the Tangerine Cream Sour. That's what the Gator Patrol is. It's refreshing. It's a sour for fall time. It's got a little summer sweet tart to it. It's bright and juicy. It's balanced. Now, it's brewed to be a less tart option than some of those others, and this sour welcomes new beer drinkers and sour lovers alike. Give it a try. Gator Patrol, the Tangerine Cream Sour from Grind City. We take a break. When we come back, we go to Chicago, and our agent from Priority Sports, Andy Schiffman, is standing by. We'll talk NBA in just a moment.
Start your day with Sports 56 Mornings with Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy. Weekday mornings from 7 to 10, right here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
What happens when former real estate agents want to sell their homes? This is Sheldon Rosengarten with Mark's Ben Store Realtors. I am so proud and feel so honored when former real estate agents contact me when they want to sell their homes or someone has called them asking whom they should use. They know that I've been in the business for quite a while, have a great deal of experience, and know that I'm good at marketing and I'm part of a nationwide relocation network. Over the years, I've developed a highly successful strategic marketing program that can make the difference in what you make and when. Thinking of selling? Talk to 2 to 3 real estate brokers, but make sure I'm one of them. Remember what people often say that when you want the job done, well, Shell done. So if you or somebody you know is thinking of selling, remember what other former real estate agents do. They call me at 483-0546 or email me at memphisrelocate.com. Shell Dunn Rosengarten at memphisrelocate.com or 483-0546.
Fall is football at the Owner's Box Sports Bar and Grill in Lakeland, Town Square. Monday through Friday is happy hour from 3 to 6 with $1 off all draft meals, $5 off well drinks, $4.50 for house wine, and half off pretzel bites, mozzarella sticks, queso, corn dogs, and pickles. Then Friday night lights from 7 to closing. Dine in and buy 12 wings and 5 regular wings for free. Come watch college football and every pro game on the weekend. All at the Owner's Box Sports Bar and Grill in Lakeland, Town Square. Highway 70, Fall is football.
Hi, this is Troy Fiveash, owner of Fiveash Roofing. In these uncertain economic times, there are so many things as a contractor and a business owner that I cannot control. The rising cost of materials, not to mention fuel and transportation costs. In the last 2 years, shingle prices have almost doubled, and commercial materials have doubled. And I don't have to tell you what fuel costs these days. But you know what I can control? How much markup I put on a project. I have always prided myself in knowing I never gouge a customer. But in an effort to ensure my crews have work and my customers are being treated fairly, I have lowered my profit margin, hoping to give you a price you can live with and keeping my crews busy. So if you need a roof or gutters, please give us a call. Five Ash Roofing, fair, honest, and ethical. Five Ash Roofing, a proud sponsor of Tiger Athletics and a member of the Tigers home team. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com.
Napa Cafe celebrates 26 years in 2024. Hi, I'm Glenda Hastings, owner of Napa Cafe, and I want to thank you for making us part of your dining experiences. Treat yourself tonight with a delightful dinner. Maybe start with an appetizer like our baked sweet peculiar peppers stuffed with goat cheese and mozzarella, finished with basil pistou, and move on to one of our cozy dishes like the double chocolate stout braised boneless beef short ribs with tonkatsu sauce and creamy mashed potatoes, or a fresh seafood dish like our pan-roasted ginger buttered sea bass with cilantro soy vinaigrette. I get hungry just talking about it. Don't forget about dessert, our famous sweet buttermilk pie with brown sugar sauce, or drink your dessert with one of our signature dessert cocktails, like the lemon cheesecake martini, lemony, icy, frothy, and dusted with graham cracker crumbs. Napa Cafe, open Wednesday through Saturday for dinner starting at 5 o'clock. For reservations, visit our website at napacafe.com. Come join us as we celebrate 26 years of Napa Cafe. We can't wait to serve you.
Let's head to Chicago. Our agent Andy Schiffman, as always, standing by on Fridays. We're getting so close now to the opening night that it means for real. Last night the Grizzlies lost. They couldn't get the ball inside. They also may have lost Marcus Smart for a while. He hurt his knee. There was no Ja. There was no Triple J. There was no Brandon Clark, who's an Andy Schiffman a client. What's the deal with BC? Good morning.
Morning, Dave. Yeah, not so much worried about BC. I think they just decided to rest him. A lot of these teams do that this time of year where they're not going to wear out the rotational players. They're going to give a lot of these Exhibit 10 G League players opportunities here and there before they get released to go sign in and play for their G League team. So, Brandon should be fine. I'll actually be at their next preseason game here on Saturday night against the Bulls. But, yeah, I saw that Marcus obviously went down with a bit of a knee issue, Jaws out with the ankle sprain. And I think it definitely gives you a little bit of pause if you're a Grizzlies fan, knowing what happened last year. But I, knock on wood, do not believe any of these really are a cause for concern and anything that should keep these guys out long term.
Yeah, I don't. I know Smart tried to come back. The Triple J hamstring, I think, is really going to be precautionary. I hope so. You got to, with a hamstring, you really kind of have to do all of that. You mentioned the it's basically the guys trying to become two-way guys, and they're free agents that are going to be hustle. What do you call it? Something 10.
Exhibit 10, which is
Exhibit
basically
10,
a mechanism for these teams in the NBA to entice players to come and sign with the NBA team and then be subsequently released or cut to go play for their G League team. But an Exhibit 10 essentially says it's an actual exhibit in their player contract that says if and when you get released from the Grizzlies, let's say we're talking about the Grizzlies, then you go sign in and play for our G League team. So you play for the Hustle for 60 consecutive days. So if you play for 2 months, you're on the G League team for 2 months, then on top of your G League salary of around $40,000, you're also going to get a bonus, which is about $77,500. So again, if you're this is way off topic, but if you're a young player and maybe let's say you're fresh out of college and you don't have lucrative overseas opportunities, you don't want to go overseas just yet, you can gross $120,000, $130,000 in your first year and get into a system like the Grizzlies and see where it goes. Obviously, that's happened before with players. You look at Scottie Pippen Jr., who's on the verge of being converted to a multi-year deal. That's going to happen probably any day now with Derrick Rose's spot opening up, and then they're going to have another open two-way that the Grizzlies look to use.
Would they use that on Yuki Kawamura, the kid from Japan? No, seriously, he's 5'8", but he's really exciting. Pete Pranica was talking about him and said if he goes back to Japan, and I guess it's because of endorsement opportunities, that he would make a lot of money. Obviously, you make more if you become an NBA guy because you'll still get those endorsements. But what do you think of this guy, and what do they pay in the Japanese leagues? Is it as good as Europe?
Well, to your point, I don't see the Grizzlies two-weighing him. I know he's a bit of a fan favorite, but I think they will either look at potentially two-weighing another, more NBA-ready point guard or a big. I'm actually talking to them about one of my clients who's playing in Australia, who's a big man for that role, but it's far from concrete. So I think those could be the two positions of need that they look to fill a two-way with. I just don't see Yuki being one of them. I don't think he's an NBA player. And so, look, a kid like that, I've only watched him last night. I don't know much about him other than that. There's another kid who's with the Pacers, played in Nebraska, Keisei Tominaga, another Japanese player. Good players, definitely have a market in Japan. So a player like Yuki in Japan, I have to imagine he could probably, his value there will increase the more NBA minutes he plays, just kind of the way that league works and how they value players playing in NBA preseason. So I think he could probably go and make a few $100,000. He's not going to go make millions by any means. To your question, is it comparable to Europe? It depends. A player like Yuki could probably make more in Japan than he could in Europe. He just doesn't have a lot of value in Europe because they want tough, physical, bigger point guards, and that's not him. And in Japan, obviously, they have a lot of their local players who are relatively smaller players. And then they go out and they have a limit on the number of non-Japanese and non-local players they can sign who are traditionally bigger players. I have David Nwaba there. I have Jake Layman there, two bigger wings, and big men are also pretty coveted there. So I don't know exactly what offers he could have in Japan, but I will say I love the league. They treat players great. Everything is stable, but it's not necessarily on the same competitive level as Europe.
You mentioned you got a big guy in Australia. It looks to me like they're leaning toward this guy, Jay Huff, who had 15.6 rebounds, 3 blocks, 2 assists, and a steal last night against Charlotte.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think right now he's already on a two-way, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, he's already got that two-way?
I believe he's already on a two-way, and so I think they would potentially look to just add some more depth in their front court. They have right now Jay Huff on a two-way, and Cam Spencer, who's one of our guys,
Right.
who's dealing with a little bit of an ankle injury himself. We're hopeful that'll get cleared up soon. He'll be able to play. And then, obviously, Scotty, they're going to convert probably pretty soon.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, no, it's interesting times. I want to see more of Spencer in the limited times we saw him.
Well, you will, and the other thing you'll be seeing soon, because it's going to happen, you're going to see our guy Zach E start banging in some of these threes.
Well, he was 0 for 3 last night in that department.
Yep, he's not shy though, and we've seen him. I've seen it with my own eyes go around the perimeter, knock in about 18 out of 25, and rattle off 10 straight. So. It will happen, and I know the Grizzlies are excited about that.
I'm excited about him, but, man, I read some of these guys, and they just don't think he can keep up, that he's not physically fit enough, that he's too lumbering. I'm really not going to buy that.
I'm not going to buy it either. The Grizzlies, they do a great job getting their guys in shape. It's preseason. Zach has to get used to the NBA pace. And, again, he's played in the Summer League. Did great in Summer League, and he's played a couple of NBA preseason games here. So by no means am I worried. If Taylor wants to use him in spot minutes here and there, he can. We've talked about it before. I think if that was really true, Dave, you would see him making a lot of mental mistakes and really getting in foul trouble a lot. And he never did that at Purdue, especially last year. He only had one foul last night in over 20 minutes. So I'm not really buying that either.
We have talked in the past. It's not NBA, but it's WNBA, and we have talked a little bit about popularity with this. All right, so last night, Minnesota came back from 18 down, and one of my favorite players, Breanna Stewart, missed a layup. She missed a free throw that would have won the game. I'm shocked. The UConn and the Olympic gold medalist, the UConn star who's won national titles, did that. But it was a heck of a comeback. I'm curious, do you see, you're in Chicago, and I don't know if, because that team's already fired their coach, but do you see the popularity of this league growing like it appears to me it is?
Absolutely. My rhetorical question would be, what is the ceiling, right? Because is it ever going to match the popularity level of the NBA? No. But exponentially, it definitely has grown. And I think I've mentioned this before, you and I talking here, years past, they would have to beg anyone and everyone to come to games. Right. We had a lot of NBA clients. They would give out tickets. Now, I have NBA clients calling me, seeing if they can get WNBA tickets or ask our help to get them tickets, and these teams will say, yeah, we can give them a little bit of a discount, and if they want to sit courtside, it's $400 a ticket, and these guys will pay it. That shows you the popularity of these games, of the league. I think the two leagues have done a great job over the years of really kind of making the men's and women's players more cohesive, where there's a bit more of a relationship. I don't know if it's thanks to social media or what the case may be, but there's just more interaction between WNBA players and NBA players, and then obviously that in turn will draw current NBA players to their games. You see players on the sidelines talking and interacting with the women's players, with the coaches, et cetera, and vice versa. And I think that's great, and I think that will only continue. So to your point, yes, popularity is growing, even to the point now where an agency like Priority Sports, that we've been around for 30-plus years, and we have only focused on men's basketball and football, we are now looking at branching out into that space. We actually represent a handful of women's college players, and we're handling their NIL.
Cool. Wow.
And we are slowly branching out into the WNBA market. Obviously, the players we have now, we're hopeful that they'll be WNBA players. So you asked me again in like 3 or 4 years what our client base looks like. I think we'll have a number of WNBA players.
Interesting. Have you got college players for NIL right now too? Basketball or football?
So for men's, yes, we have a number of college players, both obviously men's basketball and football, and then we've got, like I said, a handful of women's. Yep.
Without naming names or anything, can you give me an average NIL for a college basketball player that's at a power school?
Well, I think the big misnomer here is like, what is NIL, right? So there's two categories. What these players get from their school's collective, which generally is something that the school/collective just negotiates, sometimes with the players directly. We'll step in as needed. That can be lucrative. It could be anywhere depending on the school. It all is based on the collective budget, and the collective is essentially like a one-off from the school. It's not officially under the umbrella or the offices of the school, but it's, boosters and what have you. And so that could be anywhere from $150,000 to $200,000, sometimes less if it's a smaller program, all the way up to a couple million. I know there's a player that transferred from Utah State, followed his coach, I think, to Washington State, and they gave him $2 million, or they promised him $2 million. Now, that might mean 80% of that number comes from the collective, and the other 20% will be made up in different one-off deals throughout the season that are promised to that player. So you've got the bulk of the money coming from these collectives.
$2 million
throughout the year
in Pullman, Washington? Holy mackerel.
And that's rare. I will say that's rare. I would say generally, and you look at even these, like you said, these Power 5 conferences and these top programs, it would be anywhere between $300,000 to $400,000 up to maybe $1 million or a little bit less, depending on the player. That's, again, from the collective. Then you, during the year, can do these NIL deals that could be $5,000, $50,000, $2,000, just like you would be representing a professional.
And sooner or later, you're going to start, making sure they get their money from the 23% or whatever this thing turns out to be in the long run when they start actually paying the players and having contracts. And that is, I think, going to happen. We'll talk more about that later. Next week, as we approach, I'd love to hear your favorite storylines for 24-25. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate it.
Sounds good. Thanks, Dave.
That is our man. That is Andy Schiffman on the NBA, brought to you by the Eflin Insurance Agency. And you know the way they do insurance, it's different. They collaborate because they want to get to know you to truly protect you. So they'll sit you down, figure out a little bit about your family, what your goals are, what kind of money that you have to really get protected. And then they find the perfect coverage for your home, your car, or your future with life insurance. Same thing with businesses. Small to mid-size, that's their specialty. They will sit you down, get to know you, get to know your product, get to know your employees, then figure out what's the best way with a budget to protect your business with the perfect commercial insurance coverage. It's simple. Just go to the website. It's the Eflin Insurance Team. They get to know you, and then they protect you. We come back in a moment. We try a new thing called the American Athletic Conference Roundtable. We'll be joined by Corey Glore in New Orleans and Bruce Howard in Tulsa. That comes your way in just a minute.
We are real sports talk. Sports 56 WHBQ. Available on your radio dial at 560 AM and 98.5 FM, as well as around the world online at sports56whbq.com. Take us with you everywhere by downloading the Sports 56 app. And at home, just say, Alexa, play Sports 56. Wherever you are, stay tuned in to real sports talk. Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
You're a contractor and you need concrete coating and supplies in Memphis fast, and you get this answer? I think we can order that stuff, but you're going to have to wait a few days for delivery. Why wait? Get your concrete coatings and supplies now at TSS Supply, where everything you need is in stock. If you're working in the tri-state Tennessee, Arkansas, Mississippi area, everything you need for concrete coating is at TSS Supply, 5665 East Rains Road, Memphis. TSS Supply specializes only in concrete coatings and supplies all in one place. If you're looking for a particular item, need large quantities, or just have general questions, call 901-729-0565, 729-0565, or you can email your question to Brad at tsssupply.com. The friendly, knowledgeable folks at TSS Supply have over 150 years combined experience in concrete coatings, materials, and supplies. Contractors, are you in town for a job or getting ready to do a job for a customer during their holiday shutdown? Then you should visit TSS Supply for your concrete coatings and supplies. Why wait for materials when TSS Supply has everything you need in stock and they can get it to you today or within 24 hours? TSS Supply, 5665 East Rains Road.
To understand what makes Genesis Diamond so different than other jewelry stores, you have to go back over 40 years to the diamond cutting capital of Tel Aviv, Israel. That's where Genesis owner Boaz Ramon grew up, in the center of the diamond universe. His connections with the best diamond cutters allowed him special access, giving rise to a thriving wholesale business here in the United States. Then, after a few years, this wholesaler changed the game and started selling these precious diamonds direct to the public at the same prices he had sold to the jewelry stores. the no middleman concept became an instant success. Today, Genesis Diamonds provides that extraordinary value to people right here in Middle Tennessee, leading the industry with the highest quality diamonds that still come straight from the best cutters, offered at the guaranteed best price of any jewelry store in America. Genesis Diamonds, a truly revolutionary concept with a unique history rooted in quality, committed to excellence, and always focused on value. Genesis Diamonds, luxury brand Rolexes, and Poplar and Perkins Extended.
Is your wife asking you to stop eating junk food? Well, we have you covered at Humdinger's. It's quick and it's healthy, and most important, it tastes amazing. With many choices from salmon salad to rainbow trout and grilled asparagus. Come visit us for lunch at Humdinger's, 6300 Poplar Avenue. So good, Coach Penny eats with us weekly. Don't forget, Humdinger's offers full-service catering for weddings, social events, or your corporate lunches. You can call 901-260-8292 to find out more.
Get ready, Memphis. It's our 35th annual Trucktober happening here at Sunrise Buick GMC at Wolf Chase. Big trucks, load trucks, four-wheel drive trucks, two-wheel drive trucks, crew cab trucks, extended cab trucks, diesel trucks, gas trucks. We got red trucks, black trucks, white trucks. We got trucks for big jobs, and we got trucks for weekend warriors. We got trucks for great gas mileage and trucks for all your towing needs. Huge discounts, big rebates, special interest rates. We've got it all. Ford, slow pay, it's all okay at Sunrise. Home of the guaranteed approval. Come see us for all your car, truck, and SUV needs. Visit us at the good-looking building on Highway 64 in Bartlett. It's Truck Month. We make it fun to buy a car.
I feel like a pilot here. We're taking off on a new segment. It's called the American Athletic Conference Roundtable. I thought about this last year, and two of my favorite guys, broadcasters, Corey Glore for Tulane, Bruce Howard, longtime announcer for Tulsa, are going to join us, and we're just going to talk a little bit about the American Athletic Conference instead of games or anything of that nature. I thought that today we would just talk a little bit about the transition in this conference from Mike Oresco, who set it up and did a marvelous job of getting the best television money than any Group of Five school. He wasn't always perfect. I thought at the end I didn't get the Army-Navy deal the way it's working out. But he did a heck of a job of establishing this conference. Of course, you lost a lot. And now you've got Tim Pernetti, who's come in, and who knows what he is all about. So I'm going to let you, Bryant, get Corey Glore on and then Bruce Howard, and we will talk American Athletic Conference. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for being a part of this. Let me start with Corey. What's your perception of the transition, Oresco to Pernetti? Does it make much of a difference? Good morning.
Good morning, Dave. Thanks for having me on for this new exciting segment that you're concocting here. And I'm honored to be a friend. Thank you for considering me a friend. I do feel honored here. So in terms of the switch, I think we're seeing in the short time already with Tim Pernetti overseeing the American, he's very out and about and active of being, I think, forward-facing both to the member schools as well as nationally about, I guess, new ideas, trying to be as proactive as possible to try and keep the American at least in the conversation with the ever-changing landscape of college sports and floating out ideas that we really hadn't been hearing before. And so we're still in the early days of it. We'll see if this all materializes. But, I think Mike Oresco, his biggest strength was that he was the biggest defender of this conference and would really kind of go to war for the AAC in various meetings and publicly. Tim Pernetti has had that same type of mindset, it appears, but he is bringing some different ideas to the table. Whether these come about remains to be seen. But he is definitely, he's been around Tulane quite a bit. I know he's been in Memphis and Tulsa and various, locations already around the league. And so that's already been nice to see, I would say, to see a commissioner very much out and about within the league itself. Now we got to see if these plans can come into action.
Yeah, I think he was around Memphis and he was around New Orleans because he was trying to make sure we didn't leave.
Oh, yeah, yes.
And part of this is you mentioned different things he's trying to do, which is trying to make more money for those that are in the conference. Bruce, was he in Tulsa? And what is your perception of this new commissioner?
Yeah, Tim came to Tulsa on I think it was the Oklahoma State game back on September 14th, and honestly, that was right when things started to hit. In terms of some of that movement that we most recently have seen. And by the way, thank you so much for inviting me on and be a part of this. It's just perfect proof that, as an old radio guy told me, it doesn't have to be really good. It has to just take up time. So that's what I'm going to do, is take up a little bit of time. But no, I think Corey spoke very well to that transition. And you mentioned it at the outset that, Mike Oresco, of course, had his history at ESPN, so he knew his way around getting a contract. He got, as you mentioned, the best group of 5 contract that you could ever imagine. It's a good one, and it still bears fruit today. And Tim Pernetti, he has great experience as well in the media world. So I think it's a perfect fit. But I will, honestly, guys, I will say this. One of the worst jobs in America right now is to be a conference commissioner, especially in the group of 5 schools. I mean, even the P4 schools, some of those guys are probably worried about various things. So I wouldn't want to be a commissioner of any league at any time at this point in college, in our college athletics discourse. So it's a tough job, but I think Tim's going to be up for it. And as Corey mentioned, he's traveling around, he's making himself known, and doing the best he can.
Unless you're a commissioner of the Big Ten or the SEC, that's not such a bad spot to be in.
Right.
And we'll talk maybe another week about the Rudy Project. I do want to talk about the one thing that I think Oresco blew, and that is the Army-Navy thing. So you got Navy, you've had Navy, and by the way, both those teams, I've not seen Army. I know, Bruce, you have. I've seen Navy. I know how good Navy really is. And we have a guy named Brandon Lang who is on the show before me with Greg and Eli. And he was talking, there were only 4 teams this year that have covered every game. And Army and Navy are 2 of the 4. So, I mean, they are really good. And if they were to go undefeated, and if you look at their schedules, they are playing the easiest schedules in the American. If they go undefeated, they would play in the conference championship game the week before their jackpot when they play CBS in a game that could be meaningless because the winner could possibly be, if they go undefeated, could possibly be in the position to play in the playoff game, which I'd think is decided right after the championship week. So it's a crazy situation. I'll start with you, Bruce, this time. Your thoughts on Army-Navy in the league without being a league game and no revenue from the game.
Yeah, I mean, that's just something that, grandfathered in or ever how you want to term it, but it was certainly very interesting when you consider how good Army and Navy is. And you, of course, Dave, saw firsthand Navy and how good they are. And Bryson Daly is a terrific quarterback for Army. And you talk about, teams that are generally quarterback-oriented and, passing and yada, yada. But Army and Navy, neither one of those teams go unless they have a great operator at that quarterback position for their triple option. And both of those guys, Army and Navy, are just absolutely, terrific. And obviously things can change. Somebody gets injured, that might change it as well. But it is a very interesting scenario. And then if indeed that Army-Navy game is a game that doesn't mean anything and one of the 2 teams has already been selected for the 12, how do they approach that game? I would think, knowing Army and Navy, they would approach it the same way and try to kill each other again. But it's a really interesting scenario. Now, maybe the cart is ahead of the horse, Dave. I mean, I look at November 9th. Army is at North Texas. Navy is at USF. Those will be difficult games for both of those teams. And then Tulane has to play Navy. Yeah, so yes, they do have a little. Right. They do have a little bit of an easier, they don't have the real toughies necessarily, but they do have a couple of roadblocks. So, those are, to me, those are 2 dates to kind of keep an eye on November 9th. And then the following week when Tulane, Corey, I think you play up at Navy, right?
Yeah, we go there on the 16th for the second to last week of the year. And so that'll be our first look at either of the academies. We don't have Army on the schedule this year. And so now, I mean, you're never going to hear this from within the football program itself, but certainly those on the periphery of it have zeroed in on that game as well as the Thanksgiving game with Memphis. As suddenly, I think we all thought heading into the year the Tiger matchup on Thanksgiving night was going to be massive, and now it looks as though Tulane's got the last 2 weeks of the year that will determine their fate. And so, yeah, I would imagine when Army signed on last year to join the league, and granted, Tim Pernetti wasn't on board yet,
right.
I don't think anyone anticipated that in year one of these two sharing the American that this might be something that comes up. And so I think that's a testament to what Navy's done here quickly, because Army has been pretty good the last couple of years. But now with Navy taking this leap forward, this becomes it's a fascinating turn of events here if these two keep kind of steamrolling towards each other and how they approach December 6th for a conference championship game and then the actual Army-Navy game after that. I don't know if the American would be wildly enthused, even though this would draw some headlines. But I think you're right, Dave. The fact that actual Army-Navy game does not really do much for the league itself, other than showcasing the fact that they'll have the American Athletic Conference A on their jerseys. I think there's probably a little bit of a surprise right now that these two might be steamrolling towards this sort of scenario, and I'm not entirely sure how the American goes about handling this or promoting it, or that I think they're probably a little caught off guard right now.
I just don't understand, because I have a lot of admiration for Mike Oresco. I truly do. But I don't get the deal that he would take Army in. And I get it. It's prestigious to have the military academies. It is so cool to play in Mikey Stadium in that press box that overlooks the Hudson River. I mean, it's great. But if you're not getting any money and that is not a league game, what benefit do you really get from it? That's the part that I truly don't understand. I should point out, by the way, Army and Navy both play Notre Dame. Now, if they were to win the Notre Dame game, would knock Notre Dame out of the playoffs, and I think whichever team won that would certainly be in a position to be the Group of Five rep, unless like Navy won that game and then Tulane knocked them off, and now you'd have, if Memphis were to win out, that game with Tulane would really be an interesting game all told. But crazy stuff. Bruce, I wanted to ask you this. I know where Corey stood kind of on this. We were texting when the Pac was trying to invade and take Memphis, USF, and Tulane. What was the perception in Tulsa about all of this? Was there any interest by Tulsa in the Mountain West if those three teams were leaving? Do you have any idea what your administrators were thinking about?
No, honestly, no true insight, although, you'd be silly as an athletic director. And Tulsa has a really good one, a new guy, Justin Moore, came from Texas A&M. He's terrific. But you'd be silly not to be, keeping your eye on it and trying to, figure out what's happening and what's the landscape and, all of that. But no real true indication. Hate to tell you, I don't have any news on that particular front. But I will say this, I assume the Air Force thing is kind of out of the picture now, or not?
No, Mountain West paid them big money to stay in with UNLV, so they're not going anywhere. But this is not over. Let me tell you, it's not. Yeah. It's never over. I've been doing this. I'm in my 50th year of broadcasting, and I've learned one thing: the dominoes always fall. This is a fluid thing. Conference changes. There's no doubt in my mind about that. Guys, I hate to do this, but I'm out of time. It went fast, but you know what? The best thing is we do it again next Friday. Thank you.
I'm looking forward to this, Dave, Bruce. It's great to chat with you, and safe travels, Dave, to wherever you're playing.
We're going to Orlando. That's another fiasco we'll talk about another week. Corey Glore from Tulane, Bruce Howard from Tulsa. Thank you guys so much. This final portion of our show brought to you by the Spirit Shop. Oh yeah, it's time to reload because the weekend is here, and you've got so many choices because you got baseball games. Playoffs. You got all the college football. You've got 2s versus 3s. I mean, you got everything you could possibly want. And there's a few high school games you may want to tailgate. So the best place to do that is to go pick up the best that you can at the easiest location. That's the Spirit Shop right there, Eddie Connor's Place, Poplar and St. Nick, 4848 Poplar. It's the log cabin just down from Clark Tower. You can't miss it. You'll love going inside there. The service is incredible. Plus, they educate you. They'll tell you why something is rare. They'll tell you why something is an up-and-comer. They'll tell you why this is middle of the road. And you'll love the prices. The location, the prices, the service, the education. You can't beat it. It's the Spirit Shop at Poplar and St. Nick. I'm on my way to Orlando. We'll talk again on Monday. Johnny Radio is right around the corner. Don't go anywhere. Have a great weekend, everybody.
So you need to sell your house? I have the solution. Call 901-406-1101. That's 901-406-1101. Call my buddy Bill and I buy houses, any area, as is. It's literally as simple as that. Just pick up your phone, call 901-406-1101. That's 901-406-1101. Call my buddy Bill and I buy houses. Guaranteed to close in 5 days. If you need to sell your house fast, call Bill at 901-406-1101. That's Bill and I buy houses.
Welcome to the Rendezvous.
This is John Vergas. When my dad started the Rendezvous in 1948, I don't think anyone could have imagined we'd still be serving shoulder, cheese plates, and our world-famous dry rub ribs 75 years later. But we are still here in the basement, in an alley in downtown Memphis. We sincerely thank you for making the Rendezvous what it is today. Charlie Vergas Rendezvous, a legendary experience for over 75 years, whether you dine in, pick up, or ship across the country.
Rush your house, rush your office building? Impossible! Not if you call Wilson's